محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
Recite another salawat, please. And one more salawat, please. And one more salawat, please. And just push forward slightly with another salawat, please. No bathroom breaks. Another salawat, please. One more salawat, please. Good boy. Say one more salawat, please. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد. وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أما بعد، قال الله الحكيم في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، وإن من شيئته لإبراهيم، صدق الله العلي العظيم. Our series of discussions have gone into its fifth night. Yesterday we looked at the importance of awakening one's heart to the reality of Wilayat. Look, our days are going very fast, as is life. Time will take us on. Those people who ingrained themselves in the message of Hussein remain alive today. Otherwise, everybody else perishes. Go across the world and see. For all those people who've attached themselves to the maqsad of Hussein are still alive today. Otherwise, however much money you have, however powerful you may be, however educated you may think you are, your abode is to be there, back into dust again. Those people are alive. Those people's names are alive today. For those people whose hearts are open for the sake of Hussein. Remember that tradition that we said Amir al-Mu'mineen predicts. Kitab Nu'mani says, after the death of my son, Dhalala, Dhulamat, the entire ummah will perish into confusion. And that confusion will remain until the rising of the Qaim. That confusion. The entire ummah will perish, regardless of there being 1 billion plus Muslims. What you see is a state of confusion. And then the prediction continues, and he says, Akhir al-Zaman will be that time when munkir will become ma'ruf and ma'ruf will become munkir. That people will lose their moral compass. And you'll see that people will fall into this intoxication of time. You won't know what the truth is, and you won't want to know what the truth is. People will go from one place to another, but what you find is that they're completely intoxicated by their life. We come here, we recite, we mourn, but ask yourself the question, how many of us actually benefit from the nur of wilayah penetrating where it should penetrate? The milak is this: if you ever want to know that your ziyarah is accepted, and if you ever want to know your azah is accepted, and you ever want to know your majlis is accepted, the milak is this: look inside of yourself and see, if you walk away from here as a changed person, then know your azah has been accepted. The same way as your ziyarah. If you want to know that your ziyarah has been accepted, look at yourself and see. If your heart changes, then what? Then you know your ziyarah has been accepted. Otherwise, you're those same people like the munafiqun around the Prophet. As long as they were with the Prophet, they were pious. The minute the Prophet's eyes closed, what happened? That najasa from inside of them came out, manifested. So what happened? Thirst for power, hubba riyasa, it's love for power, corruption, matter, wealth, materialism. All of these things come. But what happens when a person truly understands from the heart, they change? Otherwise, like the example I gave, the minute you come back from ziyarah, land in Istanbul, Burger King, the first burger bite that goes, all of your spirituality goes down in the same way as that burger goes down. What happened? Tahajjud goes, praying 5 times a day goes. Why? As long as you're next to Hussein, even the most wretched person becomes a bit pious. But the minute that you move away from Sayyid al-Shuhada, what happens? That effect begins to diminish. Why? Because that effect was only periphery. It needs to gauge the heart. So what's the most important thing? That in these 10 nights, you've been told that you can change your entire destiny in the space of one night. You've been told that your dua can be answered in the space of one night. You change, your entire movement changes, your mind changes. Your consciousness is raised. You can change all of these things. What is the condition though? The condition is this: the heart needs to change. Now imagine this, what does Allah do? For many a time, the people who come to the majlis of Sayyid al-Shuhada, you notice the heart's broken. Why is that? In the way that Allah says to Musa, Musa, I'm for the brokenhearted, give me your heart. What happens? Heart breaks. Why does heart break? It's important for the heart to break, for you to accelerate to go towards Allah. But Imam Hussein says something which even bypasses that. He says, Allah, before you test me, why does Allah test a person? To raise them. He says, Allah raised me without testing me. Right? Raise me without these trials and tribulations coming. And only a ma'asum can do a dua like that. Teaches us. Teaches us the asrar, the sir, the secrets of dua. When you pray to Allah, ask Allah, raise you, give you a high level of consciousness. The reason, and you'll be tested. If you think you won't be tested, you'll be tested. Every stage you'll be tested. And if you think to be the face of Islam and Shiism is easy, speak to any alim today and any reciter today, you'll find that as they grow, they're tested. At every stage you're tested. Why? Because there's a test of sincerity. Allah keeps people alive. When He keeps a person alive, He keeps them alive for the sincerity. Keeps them alive. There's a special lutf of the Imam over a Shia. But the Shia has to be ahl to the Imam as well. Remember one thing. Sayyid al-Shuhada, as he stood there on the night of Ashura, he says to all of his companions, go. Now understand this. After 5 days, now understand this. What does Hussein ibn Ali do? Alayhi salam goes into the maqtal. As he walks into the maqtal, he says to his companion, go, leave me in my loneliness so that I might cry over my loneliness. Why, Mawla? Because there's no one ahl to Hussein. At least there were 72 people. Look at your Imam today. Did you ever feel his pain? Do you know he feels your pain? Shall I give you honest, if you can feel your Imam's pain. But we don't feel our Imam's pain. You know why? Because we don't believe in our Imam. In the way that we don't believe in God. What do I mean? If you knew your mother was watching you, you wouldn't move. You wouldn't stick your legs out, for example. Not that anybody is, but for example, you wouldn't do that. You know from behind your mother is watching. She's a reality to you. Imam Zaman and Allah concepts to you. It's like your great-grandmother. It's a concept in your mind you've never seen. Make the Imam real in your heart. You know why? Because you've been created to be like Salman. And you've been created to be like Abu Dhar. And you've been created to be like Miqdad. Why do you fall short of that? 99% of the people in this world don't even realize their potential. What potential does Salman have? You ever thought about Salman? Who is Salman? Understand. Who is Salman? We looked at who Habib is. Habib was that person who Amir al-Mu'mineen teaches him the knowledge of Manaya wal Balaya. Right? What is that? The ability to even look at the winds and from the winds tell Ma'awiya is dead. Looks at the water. How do you know? He says, Amir al-Mu'mineen taught me a knowledge. Said, what was that ilm? Manaya wal Balaya. So one day Habib was walking. Maytham al-Tammar was walking. Right? Both of them are walking. Now remember, after Amir al-Mu'mineen, his companions never spoke to one another. It was from the heart. This is why when Jabir comes up to the sixth Imam, Jabir had the ability of Tayyil Ard. One Shia was in Kufa. He says, I want to meet my Mawla. Jabir says, come with me. Grabs his hand, takes a step. What happens? Medina. Says, you want to meet your Mawla? This guy started to shake. Imam says, take him back. He can't take it. That Jabir, who had that knowledge, entire Shiism today is based upon the companions of the Imam. Muhammad bin Muslim, Abu Basir, Zarara. Within these three, entire Shiism, if you look at it, half of our hadith come from these individuals. What did these individuals say to the Imam? Look at the ability that they had. But they come to the Imam alayhi salam, sixth Imam, and they say, Mawla, why don't you give us the secrets that Amir al-Mu'mineen gave his companions? Right? So you know what the reply was? He looks up and he says, because you're not the companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen, that's why. He says, why? He says, Amir al-Mu'mineen would tell them something, they would bury it in their chest in such a way that not even the jinns would be able to understand what that secret was. It buries in the chest. It doesn't come to the mouth. It's buried in there. Look at the tradition and see. Look at some of the companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Look at some of the companions of the sixth Imam. What does Mawla say? He teaches a person 70,000 narrations. And then he says, it's haram upon you to even tell one of them. Says, Mawla, why? He says, if you were to say one of them, they would kill you. They would say you're a kafir. Why? Fadail of Ahlul Bayt. They can't take it. People can't take the fadail of Ahlul Bayt. Understand who Insani Kamil is. Understand who Insani Kamil is. Fadail of Ahlul Bayt cannot be taken. So he says, Mawla, but my chest is ripping. What do? He says, go and dig a well like my Jad Amir al-Mu'mineen would do. Put your head inside and speak to the ground. People can't take it. Why? Fadail of Ahlul Bayt. Imagine if Habib ibn Madahir is like that. Maytham al-Tammar is like that. What is the milak? After Amir al-Mu'mineen, both of them are walking one day. One walks, one passes. Habib looks up, says, Salam on the person who will give their tongue for the sake of Ali ibn Abi Talib. You know, people loosely use the term malang. There is no malang here bigger than Maytham al-Tammar. What does Maytham turn around and say? He says, you can pull out my tongue, but I've given my tongue to Ali ibn Abi Talib. For my mother, they pulled out his tongue, but what was he doing? Dhikr of Ali, Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Ya Ali. Why? He understood the reality of what Ya Ali is. We don't understand the reality of what Ya Ali is. You want to know the reality of Ya Ali? Even a little bit, let me tell you something. Right, I'll give you a tradition. But before I do, can you recite a salawat and come forward? All the way to the front, please. Please, if we can all come forward, because yesterday we had to stop 3 times. It's disturbing for you. All the way to the front. I'm getting worried. They're putting me higher and higher up. It's not even Ashura yet. Tomorrow I'm going to be up there somewhere. Is that another salawat, please? And now we're full. I can't bring anybody more forward than this. Recite salawat, please. Look, let's go back. Now that we're going on the Miraj of Wilayat, we might as well go on the Miraj of Wilayat. What is Amir al-Mu'mineen? You have understood what he is. We touched on it yesterday. I want to expand what we touched yesterday. What does Amir al-Mu'mineen say, right? The hadith is in front of me. I'm going to run the hadith so that I can move to where I want to move. Quran is what? Haqiqat of haqaiq al-ashya. Everything within creation, alam kawn is in the Quran. One verse, 70,000 veils. Understand the Quran. Can you understand it? We can't understand it. That's why we need the filter of imamat to understand it. Why is that? Mujassim of the Quran. What is the Quran? Haqiqat of all of creation. What is Ali? Haqiqat of all of creation. Right? What is Ali? Mulk, Malakut, Jabarut, Lahut, Hahut, Sifat, Asma of Allah. That's Ali. That's Amir al-Mu'mineen. Take it one stage further. What is Ali? You have the Dhat of Allah. You have the Sifat of Allah. You have the Asma of Allah. You have the Af'al of Allah. What is the Af'al of Allah? It's the doer, right? It's done upon something. The first thing that Allah did upon to create creation was one haqiqah, was one nur. That nur is known as the nur of Muhammad, but that nur is one wasl with another nur. This is why Ayatollah Naini gave a tradition. He said, if you want to understand what Ali and Muhammad are the reality, he says one day the Prophet ﷺ was sitting there. He says, Amir al-Mu'mineen comes forward. Now this was for Salman. Why? Because Salman is at that level that he can understand. They say Mawla was sitting here, Rasulullah was sitting here. All of a sudden Rasulullah becomes light, Amir al-Mu'mineen becomes light in such a way that Imam touches the hand of the Prophet and they become one light. Then that one light separates again. In Alam Ma'da, they're two. But in all of the other realms going all the way to Yawm al-Qiyamah, they're one reality. That reality was the one that, that dot. So now go back to the second and third day. What did we say? When Allah wishes khair for somebody, He puts a light in their heart. What is that light? That light tells you that you are from the leftover clay of Ali Muhammad alayhi salam. This is who the Shia are. This is why you look at the Shia of Ahlul Bayt. You cannot take the love of Ali out. Whatever happens, they can cut you, they can hit you, they can slap you, they can kill you. But you'll be the same as those companions of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Mawla, even if we were to be killed 1,000 times and our bodies were to be chopped up into pieces and blown like ashes, every single time we would still come back to you saying, Labbaik ya Hussein. Right? This is why year in, year out, you find the Shias walk. They walk from Najaf to Karbala every single year, 1400 years later. Why? Because they renew a vow. And that vow was made in Alam Adhar to Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, that we will not forget your Hussein under any cost. Until the day of judgment you will see that there will still be people walking towards the shrine of Hussein because that oath is still there. And our souls will be going to the shrine of Hussein because we made a pledge to that mother that as long as we are alive, we will continue to gladden our heart. How will we gladden our heart? As we walk, tears will come into our eyes, and as those tears fall, that's what the gladdening of Fatima is. Right? Go back and see. Who is Amir al-Mu'mineen? What is the reality of Amir al-Mu'mineen? Hadith, Quran. Khulasa of the Quran goes back to the Fatiha. Khulasa of the first chapter goes back to the Bismillah. What is Bismillah? Shall I tell you? There are 4 or 5 verses in the Quran that contain Isma A'zam. Bismillah is one of them. There was a man once standing there. As he stood there, one man was watching him. Looks at him and he says, where you come from? He says, I live here in Najaf. He says, but I don't see you every single day coming to the shrine of Amir al-Mu'mineen. I come every single day. He says, really? He says, watch this. Assalamu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. Reply comes back. He says, the day that you can see the reply come back, then you come to me and say, he says, how did you reach this maqam? Two things, ishq and Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Now that we're on this discussion, let me tell you something. Gift to you. Put it in your minds. If ever, God forbid, you have a problem, just remember Bismillah is Isma Azam. If ever you have a problem in your life, if ever something befalls you, if ever something mujarrab, if ever something befalls you, after Isha, directly as you finish, recite 786 Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and then recite 132 times salawat. You will see in one day up to 40 days, Allah will alleviate your difficulty and grant you so much that you'll be satisfied. Why? Isma Azam. Shart is this though. Clothes have to be tahir. Food in your stomach has to be halal. Khums has to be paid for. Person has to pray. And a person has to have the love for Amir al-Mu'mineen. Then Allah opens the doors for that person. Anyhow, take the tradition. It goes back to the ba. What did we say the ba was? Muwakkil of the ba is Jibreel. What is Jibreel? Jibreel is the guardian of the world. Right? That ba is this. Even in the Hebrew is known as bet. Bet, there's one line, there's two here. Why? One represents mulk, one represents malakut. In that there's a line that connects both of these worlds, both in the Hebrew and in the Arabic, whether it's the bet or the ba. Connection. Muwakkil of the ba or the bet is Jibreel. Why? Because Jibreel looks at the nizam of alam al-kawn. This is why they say there are 4 angels. And those 4 angels uphold the alam al-kawn, world of being, the immaterial and the material realm. Jibreel, Israfil, Israel, and Mikael. Well done. Salat salawat, please. He's trained well. 5, 6, 7-year-old kid. I got the answer right. I'm very proud. This is 4. 4 angels hold up alam al-kawn. Where do you see those angels? Look at the Fatiha, you'll see itself. Bismillah has a muwakkil, Ar-Rahman has a muwakkil, Ar-Rahim has a muwakkil, Malik Yawmuddin has a muwakkil. These are the 4 muwakkils that hold up alam al-kawn. All 4 of these never come down in one place. One time, one place. There is only one time within existence that they came down into the physical world. We'll see what it is in a minute. But let me finish this off. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, I am that dot. What does that dot signify? It was from that all of alam al-kawn came from. So what is Amir al-Mu'mineen? Understand who Imam is, right? This is why Imam says, I was with Ibrahim when he was chucked into the fire. I was with Musa when he went in front of Fir'aun. I was with Adam when he repented. I was with Noah on the ark. There was a difference though. I was with them sirran, but when it came to the Prophet, I was zahir with the Prophet. Somebody asked the question, Ya Ali, how's it possible? From the beginning to the end you're there. He says, who am I? Ana awwal wa akhir, zahir wa batin. I am the first and the last and the hidden and the apparent. You see, Allah actualizes all of His names within creation. The Rahmah of Allah, Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, the entire universe is based upon the name Ar-Rahman. Everything, actualization. When you get rizq, actualization of a name. When Ahlul Bayt show you the karam of the Ahlul Bayt, actualization of the name. But what is Al-Insanul Kamil? Who is the Hujjat of Allah? Hujjat of Allah is that person who actualizes all of the names so that man understands Tawheed. This is why 6th Imam said, had it not been for us Ahlul Bayt, nobody would have understood what Tawheed is, nobody would have understood what Allah is. It is through us as a wasila that you come to understand. Why? You want to see Rahmaniyat, look at who? Imam al-Zaman. You want to look at Rahimiyat, look at Imam al-Zaman. You want to know Karimiyat, look at Imam al-Zaman. You want to know Jabbar, right? Look at Imam al-Zaman. You want to know Allah? Look at Imam al-Zaman. Why? Ahlul Bayt continue the discussion. You know what the Ahlul Bayt say? They say, somebody comes up to the Imam He says, what was your father? He says, Wajhullah. What are you? He says, Nahnu Asma'ul Husna. Why? You see, what is Wajh? Face. Allah doesn't have a face, physical face. Why? Allah's beyond that, transcendental. He's absolute, doesn't have a face. But what's the face? Look, there may be 10 Muhammad sitting in this room. But the face and the name gives you a personality, gives you an identity. Allah needs to be recognized as well. Insani Kamil is that face that when you look at your Prophet, you understand what Allah is. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to. The greatest manifestation in creation of Allah, Rasulullah. From that light comes Ahlul Bayt. But you know what? When Allah wants to introduce the Ahlul Bayt, what does He introduce them and how does He introduce them? He introduces them like this. He brings them all into one room. He takes a shawl. Fatima goes under it, puts the shawl over, and then after that Allah says to the angels, this is Fatima, this is her husband, these are her children, this is her father. Why? Sirullah al-Akbar. The greatest secret of Allah is Fatima. Well, look, we're coming on to this discussion. I want to take you now. Take you to who Amir al-Mu'mineen is. Look, Ayatollah Hassan Zada Amali says, he says, Isma Azam is Ali. This is why some of the ulama have said, whenever you have a problem, recite Ya Ali 1,000 times. You will see Allah will alleviate your problem. And all these are for 40 days or 3 days or 10 days, but nevertheless, Isma Azam is Ali. Right? So, let's go on. Ya Ali. Why? Actualization. Look, name itself doesn't mean anything. You recite Al-Hayy, a dead body's not going to get up. It may do, but it may not get up for me. Isa alayhi salam says, hey, the dead body gets up. Right? But when you say Hussein, the heart revives. This dead heart comes alive. Right? So understand, name in and of itself is a name. The actualization of the name is important. It's a philosophical term. I don't want to go into a deep philosophy on the particular point. Actualization means what? Haqiqat of that. When you understand the haqiqat, only then Isma Azam is on. Isma Azam is not a name. It's a hal. I'll give you an example. Said Ali Qadhi's Khalifa within Najaf was a guy called Ayatollah Abbas Kushani. Ayatollah Abbas Kushani in Najaf, he says, one time he says, I was walking and I came and I found a person. He was a skinny guy, but he was lifting these boulders as if they were pebbles. So I looked at him and I said, what's the story? He says, look, Sheikh, there's no point in me telling you the story. He says, look, tell me. He says, fine, I'll tell you. He says, if you think this is good, I'll tell you in a day what used to happen. He says, what was it? He says, there was a madrasa, and I used to be the cleaner of that madrasa, the caretaker. He says, one day a man came, he was a soldier. And he said to me, look, do you have a room? So I said to him, look, this is a madrasa, we don't have any rooms. He said, look, if you've got any place, I'll take it. He says, we've got a basement, but the basement has no windows and there's no light. He says, can I see it? I'll take it. I don't mind taking it. He says, fine, you'll have to clean it up yourself. Clean it up, went underground. 24 hours, the guy's missing. So this caretaker said, look, let me see if he's dead or alive. It's underground, there's no windows, hardly any oxygen, let me go and see. As he walks downstairs and opens the door, in the pitch darkness that it was, this man was reading Quran, light was coming out of his eyes and he was reading. All right, light was coming out of his eyes. If you think that's not possible, Ayatollah Bahjat had this ability. When he would do wudu sometimes, light would come out of his eyes. Ayatollah Abdul Karim Kashmiri, speak to ulama, they'll tell you, it was absolutely pitch black. Kashmiri would be sitting like this. As he opens his eyes, it was like projectors. Right? Why? Nur from inside comes out. Certain people have nur from inside. You see it, it starts off on the forehead, eyes, chest, nur comes out, nurani. There were times when the Urafa used to do things, their face used to be nurani. Right? Because, remember one thing, ulama of the ummah of the final prophet are like the anbiya of the Bani Israel. If Musa comes down from a mountain and his face is light, then the same ability is found within the servant of Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt. When a person puts their forehead on the hujra of Fatima alayhi salam, Allah raises that forehead into light. It's not rhetoric, believe me. If you ever saw these people, you would know that you don't need to then go any further than that, right? It's like you read about famous Indian poet Joshmali Abadi. He became an atheist for about 13 years or so. There was an interview done in one of the Indian papers. He said, what brought you back to Islam? What brought you back to God? Was it philosophy? Was it theology? He says it was nothing like that. He said, what was it? He says, I thought about the fact that if somebody like Hussein can give their life for a God, then surely there must be a God. Right? Hussein. You understand Hussein, you come to understand. I don't need you to give me arguments to say there is a God. When Hussein ibn Ali does sajda on the day of Karbala at Asr time, there is a God. Right? So now come back. This person looks up at the caretaker, says, look, you're special. Teach me. He goes, it's not really for you. He says, no, please teach me. He says, look, you won't be able to take this. He says, please, he insisted. He says, fine, I'll tell you. Remember one thing. He's teaching us something very important. And that important is this. Don't ever stop knocking at the door of Allah. If an ordinary wali gives in, look at what the Imam says, right? 15th of Sha'ban. All of his companions are there. He says, there is an amal above everything else, which is the greatest amal you can do tonight. And then he stops. As people were then really asked, they continued to do what they were doing. Kumail comes, says, Mawla, what is the amal? He goes, you're not going to be able to take it. He says, no, Mawla, please tell me. He says, listen, Kumail, you won't be able to, it's not for you, you won't be able to understand it. So Mawla insisted. What did Imam say? He says, Kumail, even though I know that you won't understand completely, I'll still tell you. Why? Amir al-Mu'mineen. Why? If Hussein is what? Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam is what? Rahmatullah al-Wasi'ah. The tajalli of that comes from where? The source is Amir al-Mu'mineen. From Amir al-Mu'mineen comes 11 Imams. Right? So if he's that merciful, then Ali is that merciful as well. Knock on the door of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he doesn't send you away. But try knocking. Try knocking on the door. There's ways of doing it. We don't understand how to knock on the door of Wilayah. Doesn't mean that the door of Wilayah is not there to be opened. Doesn't mean the Imam is not going to do that. Imam will do that. You got to knock on the door of Wilayah. How do you knock on the door of Wilayah? These nights. What are these nights? Two things. Huzn, baqa. Imam says himself, wasila'uhu al-baqa. What have you got in front of Allah but your tears? Ayatollah Hassan Zada Amli became what he did because of his tears. He's still alive. Look at the ability that man has. Still alive today. You know, there's an incident with myself that took place with Ayatollah Hassan Zada Amli. It's not a story second or third. Directly, what I saw from Ayatollah Hassan Zada Amli, and I've never narrated it, so I'll hold back at least for today. But you ask, what is it? Tears. Used to cry. Heart used to break. Remember, the sign that your heart is alive is that tears come into your eyes. And the sign that your heart is dead is when tears stop coming into your eyes. That's when you know you're morphing into shimmer. Why do I say this? Understand. We don't know that we're being poisoned. Not all of a sudden that you wake up and you become shimmer. Even shimmer 25 years ago, 30 years ago was with Amir al-Mu'mineen. Slowly the poison affects. We don't know. 1 minute you get up, you go out, you're praying 5 times a day, you meet a person. Your prayers start becoming qada. After that, then what happens? Then days go by, you don't pray. Then what happens? One day you're sitting there with a cannabis in your mouth, not realizing that your dua will not be answered for the next 40 days. If bala falls upon you, which direction you're going to turn to? After that, what happens? All of a sudden you go, and all those things which are haram in our faith. Look, I'm not looking at other faiths. Maybe it's halal for them. But the fact is, for you, it's haram. What do you do then? Which direction? Before long, your heart's dead. And you don't even realize it. Only then you get up one day and you think, I've gone past that no return mark. Let it not be that you do that. Otherwise you'll be like the army of Yazid, crying but you're not shaking. What does Mawla say? He says, Mawla, why is it that these guys are crying but they're not turning? He says, haram in their stomach. Be careful, be vigilant. These nights wake yourself up. Say, I'm going to go tomorrow. What I do is on my shoulders, what you do is on your shoulders. It's not like I'm standing there with a stick and telling you to pray. It doesn't make a difference whether you pray or not. It's between you and your Allah. But we have a responsibility to remind you. What is that reminding? Your Mawla died madloom because of what? So that you have a chance in life to become a better person. I want to ask you a question. If on the day of judgment, that broken-hearted mother of Hussein comes to you and says to you, my son gave 72 of his companions and his entire family, and my daughter Zainab was tied, just for the sake that you could remember the true reality of religion, did you respect it or didn't you respect it? Were you wasting your life away or were you not wasting your life away? Come khadim of Ahlul Bayt. If tomorrow Zahra asks, I think to myself, what's going to happen to us? My son gave everything away. And you guys didn't even move? You guys didn't even change? You came for the 10 days of Muharram and you cried on the 11th day you were committing haram? What are we going to say? And here I'm talking to myself. It's most important. If I can't change myself, none of my words are going to have any impact on you. Remember what we said. Hearts connect to hearts. Hearts connect to hearts. It's not the words. Remember, what does Ahlul Bayt say? They say sometimes you don't even know what you're saying, but we become your tongue to spread the message. This is why I've always said when people say that he's not qualified, she's not qualified, every single person who comes to the Majlis of Hussein is qualified to go out and defend the name of Imam Hussein. I'm not telling you to go out and become a faqih. But the fact is this, if in 30 years of coming to Majalis of Hussein, you don't have enough knowledge to defend Sayyid al-Shuhada outside, then something's wrong. Even our kids do that. Look, leave the fiqh to the fuqaha. Leave other things to the fuqaha. But when it comes to being an ambassador of Sayyid al-Shuhada, that's who you are. When you walk outside and show the compassion of Hussein, and when you go outside and you show the generosity of Hussein, and when you go outside and you show the akhlaq of Hussein, then people ask you, you're different from them. You're different from them. Why are you different for? Answer is simple, because we're followers of Hussein. It's like in the words of, there's a very famous Sunni scholar within Pakistan. Most of you, the elders will know, Shah Ahmad Nurani. So a man goes to him and he asks him a question. And sometimes one of our youngsters, they ask questions just to get a reaction. So he looks up at him and he says, Maulana, can I ask you a question? He says, what? He goes, are you Sunni or are you Shia? Imagine, the biggest scholar of Ahl Sunnah. Now the scholar was also clever as well. So he replied, and he replied very beautifully. He says, son, I don't know about Sunni and Shia. I don't know what Deobandi and Barelwi is. I don't know what Shia and Zaidi is. But let me give you an answer. He says, what is it? He said, after Karbala, son, there are only two parties. One is Yazid's party, one is Hussein's party. He says, I feel proud of the fact that I'm with Hussein ibn Ali. Being told to, if you can, some people can come on the stage, please. Recite a salawat and come is saying it's completely blocked. If some of you can come onto the stage, please. I still have one spare. There's no space to move. Somebody, if all of you kids can come onto the stage, please come on. Some of your elders out there are finding it difficult to come in. And your committee members are telling me to tell you guys to come forward. If recite a salawat, then all of you kids come forward. Come on. And another salawat, please. Call everyone if you can. more salawat, please. One more salawat, please. You could all come forward. If you see a space in front of you, please fill that space and just come forward. Even to the back, people are still standing up. If you could recite a salawat, please. One more salawat, please. You guys sitting over there, you just move forward. There's some gap there. If you can move forward. Come. It's over there. Move forward. Keep on, if we can keep on just filling some of the small gaps which are there. Another salawat, please, and just move forward. One more salawat, please. Let's refocus again.
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Ahlul Bayt. Make your actions such that they become in line with the movement of Ahlul Bayt. Remember one thing, you're not alone, my friend. Don't ever feel hopelessness. Shall I tell you why? Because you've got 14 infallibles behind you. Even in the darkest moments of your life, you have a power there. Give you a tradition. Muhaddith Nuri narrates, it's come to my mind now. Muhaddith Nuri narrates. He says there was a guy from Shiraz. He was captured by some of the munafiqeen of the time. And as he was in jail, he did tawassul to Rasulullah. Now people ask the question, they say, look, you talk about tawassul. How do we do tawassul? Let me tell you today how to do tawassul. From what Rasulullah said. Our parents had the ability. We need to learn that ability so in our life we can do the same thing. Because believe me, there's going to be trials and tribulations that are going to befall us. When those trials and tribulations befall, make sure you have all of the wasila to be able to handle yourself. You know what the tradition says then? He says that night when he went to sleep, he sees a dream. In his dream, he sees Rasulullah comes in his dream. As Rasulullah comes in his dream, he turns around and he says to him, he says, let me teach you the secrets of tawassul. He says, Ya Rasulullah, there's nothing better than that. He goes, I'm going to go through all of them and tell you. The hadith is a long one, and I don't have time to finish it today. But I'm going to give you just enough so that you know what to do. He says, listen, look, all of my Ahlul Bayt, or all of the Ahlul Bayt have the ability to grant what you want. But he says, when you go to specific ones for specific things, it's more powerful. He says, for example, what? He says, when it comes to the umur of the dunya, do not ask about the dunya for my daughter or my two sons. They're far more loftier than that. Remember what we said? Said Ali Qadhi's father doesn't go to say the Shuhada straight away. He says, Hussein is loftier than that. He goes to Habib ibn Madahir and says, give me a son. What does Habib do? He gives him that son that is in ghaybat. Nobody's seen a son like that. Right? Say the Shuhada can give. There's no doubt about that. He can give it. But why? Go to Hussein for something loftier. What does Rasulullah say? He says, when it comes to the umur of the akhirah, what are the umur of the akhirah? For example, those spiritual vices that you have. Ghiba, tu'ma, right? Slander, right? Lying, cheating, stealing. The negativity that you have. Pointing fingers at other people. Judging other people. Being holier than thou. Especially in Akhir zaman. Who do you find the worst people in this time? The people who claim to be the most religious, you find are the worst. Why? Because they start off praising someone, then within 30 seconds they're doing ghiba of them until ila yawm al-qiyamah. Is this Islam? This is why people don't want to come to Islam when your character's not like that. We come to, what does Amir al-Mu'mineen say? Ibn Ta'us narrates, he says, Akhir zaman will be a time when people will do what? Mosques will be full, shoulder to shoulder, bughd in their hearts for one another, and ghibat. Who's saying? I'm saying this. The hadith is saying this. As long as you have bughz in your heart, your dua is not going to be accepted. How is it possible you say to Allah, help me, when you have bughz for other people? First criteria is take out all the negativity from your heart. This is why they say, don't hate a person. Dislike his characteristics, but don't hate a person. Jealousy. What happens? Jealousy leads to kufr, some of the traditions say. Jealousy is the first door that leads to kufr. So today, look at it and see. What is jealousy? In the hadith it says there are 3 things that you'll die the death of a kafir on your deathbed. Look, I don't have enough time to go into all of these things. I need to finish at least 2 traditions today. But now that we're on this, there's 3 things. He says, what are one of them? So jealousy. Jealousy takes you to kufr. Why does his son have a nice car, my son doesn't? That's jealousy. Why do people say salam to him and not me? That's jealousy. Jealousy amongst the ulama is famous as well. Hadith says 9 of them are found in the ulama. Why do you think when the 12th Imam comes, a sword comes out on 7,000? Okay, that's 1% of all of the ulama. There's at least 1 million. Look, in Qom there's over 100,000. In Najaf, if we count all of them together, it's maybe not 1 or 2%. But the fact is this, there's still jealousy there. 7,000 is still a number. What does that mean? Look at the hadith. One alim becomes corrupted. Mufsid. What happened? The entire nation becomes corrupted. When alim Rabbani is there, then he revives all of the hearts of the people. Remember that. What is alim Rabbani? Hadith says, go to alim Rabbani. Why? Every 40 days, otherwise your heart starts dying. In the Western world, whether it's the Eastern world today, in this time that we live in, make a relationship with an alim that once every 40 days, even if you don't say anything, in 10 minutes he revives you and you go back. There are people like that. When you sit with them, you feel like becoming religious. Why? Noor is coming from them. Find people like this. Maybe one day we will find people like this, but find them so you can revive your heart. Anyway, coming back. Jealousy, slander, all of these things. Be very vigilant. Be very careful. Why? Death of a kafir. Write it down. Remember, the next time you feel jealous, just remember, Allah is the one who gives. Do you think there's any shortage in Mamlakat Ala Muhammad? The domain is vast. Let's come back. So Rasulullah says, when it comes to my daughter, when it comes to my sons, ask them about these things. Then he continues. He says, if you're ever in jail, take the tawassul of the 4th Imam, for example. When it comes to knowledge, take the tawassul of the 5th Imam. The tradition is there. When it comes to illnesses, take the tawassul of who? Imam Musa ibn Ja'far. Khatib al-Baghdadi says, you know, Khatib al-Baghdadi is one of the most famous Sunni scholars that's ever lived. Khatib al-Baghdadi says, when we had a problem as Sunnis within Baghdad, our women would go to Musa ibn Ja'far, Bab al-Hawaij, and we would gain from there, even before we went to the doctors. Especially when it comes to eyesight, go to Musa ibn Ja'far. How is it possible that you have an imam like Musa ibn Ja'far and you take his tawassul and he doesn't answer you? Right? Musa ibn Ja'far, 8th Imam, continues. Says, and the 8th Imam, when it comes to journeys, you want to be protected, you feel that you're under threat, go towards who? Go towards your 8th Imam. 9th Imam, rizq. You can't get a job. You're losing a lot of money. Who do you go to? Imam Jawad, Jawad al-Aimma. Go towards him. Look, every Imam has something. We don't have time to go into all of them, but I'll tell you one more. Rasulullah says, and if ever Rasulullah says, and if you ever fall into trouble, كأنه, if the swords of your enemy are between your neck, that trouble, life and death situation, you don't know where to go, you feel your dua is not being answered, he says at that time, call upon the Mahdi, and you will see the Mahdi will come and help you. You have a power, my friends, and that power is your 12th Imam. In times of deep difficulty, and when you feel that there's no one there for you, go outside, under the skies, take off your hat, stand there, says Mawla, we don't have any other person other than you to help us. We don't have anyone else, no Imam over us. We have no Hujjat over us. Mawla, if today you don't help us and intercede with Allah, then what? There is no one to intercede. Even Allah then says, He says, my angels, I'm going to answer that person's dua. He says, but Allah, that person is a sinner. He says, but he's beseeched in me. He has no other Lord but me. Where is he going to turn to if he doesn't come to me? Right? Call Allah. Ask for the sake of your Imam. Why do you say, Ya wajihan indallah? Ishfa'alana indallah. What is it? Their faces are honorable in front of Allah. They have respect in front of Allah. They have izzah in front of Allah. So you ask, and what happens? They answer. Ahlul Bayt. The hadith is a long one, and I wanted to mention so many different things today. Hadith is a long one. God willing, we'll complete the tradition tomorrow. And we'll now shift into how to cultivate that wilayah. Look, I wanted to mention about Amir al-Mu'mineen. I wanted to mention about Zahra today. Look at the philosophy of what she is. We don't have enough time. Our time is leaving us fast. In the next couple of nights, we'll discuss further. I just want to finish this tradition off. Rasulullah then replies, I want you to focus on the final part of this tradition. Look, many people have come from far away. Many people have hajat in their heart. Many people have made nadhar and mannat and everything else. Let me tell you something. If here your dua is not answered, there's no way your dua is answered. I want to say to you one thing though. Huzn, baqa. Learn these two things. Grief and tears when your voice is elevated. Those are the two ways dua is answered, right? These are the nights of Hussein. These are the nights. Whenever the tears come, let them come. You know why? Let them come. Even if you're crying over your own problems, Ibn Shabib, even if you have your own problems, you're crying over anything, just make the intention that you're crying over my judge. That's how Kareem he is. He doesn't look and say you're crying over your own issues. He says, okay, they've made the intention, let's accept it. Hussein is that person. His arms are open to you. Shall I narrate to you the final part of the tradition? Final part of the tradition is this. I can't narrate all of it, just a small part. You won't be able to take it. I've seen you in the last 4 nights. The final part of the tradition is very painful. Continues and he just says one thing. Rasulullah then says, and if ever you want to seek revenge, go to my brother Ali. You don't do anything yourself. Why? Because the intensity lessons. If somebody oppresses you, if you lash out, what are you going to say to Allah? Allah can turn around and say, but you've already lashed out. You stay quiet and you leave it to Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen, when he takes revenge for you, there's no one in this world who can take better revenge. Why? There's a couplet. Whenever you fall into trouble, who said this? Sheikh Tusi. Which one? Khwaja Nasiruddin Tusi says. Muqaddas Ardabili. There are 2 ulama that we have from the Urafa. Hassan Ilahi was the brother of Allama Tabatabai. Had the ability to call back souls. So Ayatollah Hassan Zada Amli asked him, which souls can't you bring back? He says, only 2. He says, which ones? He says, Ibn Ta'us and Muqaddas Ardabili. He says, why? He says, Muqaddas Ardabili's maqam is such, he's with Amir al-Mu'mineen. The angels can't disturb him because he's with Amir al-Mu'mineen. That Muqaddas Ardabili, who Imam Zaman called Muqaddas Ardabili. Right? That Muqaddas Ardabili says, he says, I became Muqaddas because of the tawassul of Khwaja Nasiruddin Tusi. There's a special tawassul of the 14 Masumeens. In the hadith it says, if a person has a problem, recite this tawassul, which is now mansub to Khwaja Nasiruddin Tusi. Allah will accept your dua. But for ma'rifah and to climb, Muqaddas Ardabili says, I would recite this which took me to Muqaddas Ardabili. That Khwaja Nasiruddin Tusi says, whenever I had a problem, I would call upon Amir al-Mu'mineen with the couplet, Ya Qahir al-Adu, Ya Wali al-Wali. He says, when I recited this 100 times, Allah would alleviate any difficulty that I had. Right? That Amir al-Mu'mineen. What is Rasulullah saying? Rasulullah is saying this to him. He's saying, whenever you want to seek revenge, don't do anything. Go who? To Amir al-Mu'mineen. This person asked him a question though. And the question is heartbreaking. You know what the question was? He says, Rasulullah, if Amir al-Mu'mineen takes revenge, then what happened to Zahra? You know where Karbala begins from? Karbala begins when Rasulullah's eye closed. Tonight I want to mention just some words. You know when you cry for Amir al-Mu'mineen, you give condolences to Zahra. Imam Hassan, condolences to Zahra. Imam Hussein, condolences to Zahra. Imam Zain al-Abidin, condolences to Zahra. Rasulullah, condolences to Zahra. But when you mention Zahra, 13 infallibles come and say, please give us your I'm going to recite slowly. Your hajat, you know Zahra knows. Your nasib now. Your nasib. You know Zahra knows. Let me give you a tradition. One day Amir al-Mu'mineen was walking in Kufa. Two men were having a conversation together. One man says to the other man, what is the most difficult moment for a man? One of them replies, when he can't fend for his family. He says, what do you think? The other one replies, he says, when a man becomes ill and he can't fend for his children. I've seen myself. Recently I was in a country, a woman came crying. She says, my husband wants to commit suicide. I said, why? She says, because he is paralyzed, he had a stroke. He was a hard worker. Now that he sees that I have to go and work, my husband can't take it. Says at that moment Amir al-Mu'mineen was walking by. They say, Abul Hasan Amir al-Mu'mineen, tell us what is the most painful moment for a man? What was the reply? That wounded soldier just looked down, puts his hand on his heart. He says, I wish you never asked me a question like that. He says, but now that you've asked me, I'll reply. He says, if the husband is like me, and a man comes to his wife, look, I can't recite anymore. You won't be able to take it, I won't be able to recite anymore. Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, Zahra's pain made you like that. But there was one more pain that made him cry as well. That was Zainab's pain. Shall I give you a tradition? I'm wondering how I can give you this tradition. I'll give you a tradition though, if I can. They say that when Zahra was coming back from the court, in the hadith somebody asked, they said, was a chadar so big that it was dragging on the floor? Said, why? They said, because she had no footprints, there was a drag mark. Ulama replied, they said, no, that's not the case. Said, why? Said, when she came out of the court, one arm around Fidda, one arm around Ayman, her feet were dragging because she was in pain. As she was walking, a man comes behind her. When the man comes behind her, he grabs her by the shoulder. When he pulls the shoulder, he slaps her in the face. Zahra falls to the ground. When Zahra falls to the ground, she doesn't call Rasulullah. She doesn't call Amir al-Mu'mineen. She looks to the sky. She says, Mahdi, my son, come and help me. Somehow Zahra comes back into the house. Tradition says her face was covered. She comes back in. Hassan and Hussein come. They say, mother, did you get back your possession? She doesn't say anything. She comes onto the musalla. She sits on her musalla. As she sits there, a 4-year-old girl comes forward. That girl looks up at the face of this woman. You know what she says? She says, oh old woman, why are you sitting on the musalla of my mother Zahra? Zahra looks up, says, Zainab, recognize me, I'm your mother. Zainab says, mother, it was only a garden, you could have given it to them. You know what she replies? She says, look, Zainab, it's not the garden that made me your daughter. Mother, your hair's gone all white. It's not the garden that made my hair white. Says, mother, what was it? You know what she replied? Look, take a breath. Sakina didn't even get a breath. There shouldn't be any tear today. Hussein is coming to take your condolences for his mother. Zainab didn't get any condolences. But when her mother is mentioned, she comes. Imagine a daughter not recognizing her mother. You know what her mother replies and says? Says, Zainab, my hair didn't go white because of the garden. It was nothing to do with Fadak. Says, why did your hair go white? Says, when I went in there, I was thinking to myself, I'm surrounded by the ashab of my father. A day will come, Zainab, when you'll go into a court in such a way. How will she go into the court? You know what the tradition says? Zainab's haya, Zainab's hijab. Amir al-Mu'mineen couldn't take Zainab's hijab being violated, right? You know what the tradition says? The tradition says Yazid is sitting there. He says to Shimr, he says, Shimr, who are these ladies? Shimr points one by one saying, this lady is this, this lady is this, this lady is this. They say, but one lady was hiding behind all of the ladies. One lady was protecting her hijab, hiding behind all of the ladies. At that moment, Yazid says, who is this woman hiding behind all of them? Hijab of Zainab, right? Look, I haven't even narrated anything yet. But today I'm going to recite. Allah accept your du'as. Pray for one another. When the gharib of Hussein come, pray for one another. Shall I give you one more tradition? I'm going to give you a tradition. Tradition says this. Look at the ghurba of Amir al-Mu'mineen, honestly. Sometimes you think of the ghurba of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He didn't want to tell Zahra something. He knew Zahra would be very pained by it. You know what that was? When he saw Zahra's state, he didn't want to say anything. They say when Zahra's final moments came, she couldn't move from right to left lying on the floor. Amir al-Mu'mineen would have to come, move Zahra one way, and then move Zahra the other way. He didn't want to tell her something. You know what that was? That was this. That was this. Ahl Medina don't even reply to the salam of Ali. Amir al-Mu'mineen comes into the room. Comes into the room. Allah never show anyone the situation. Comes into the room. The lifeless body of Zahra was there. Lifts up the head of Zahra and puts her on his knee. Tears start to fall on the face of Zahra. Zahra lifts up her hand, starts wiping the tears on her face. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Zahra, what are you doing? Why are you wiping my tears on your face for? She replies and she says, my father said to me that when a madloom man cries, the tears that come out, dua becomes mustajab. She says, Abul Hassan, I don't know anyone more madloom than you. Then she begins to say something. She begins to say something that breaks the heart of the 12th Imam. You know what she says? She says, Abul Hassan, I want to say something to you. Zahra, what is it? 18 years of her life, she saw no happiness but one happiness. When she was 5 years old, she became yatim. After that, she saw masaib upon masaib fall on her. There's only one woman in the world who says, Subbat alayya masaib lawannaha. That woman turns around and says, Abul Hassan, the most happiest moment in my life was that when I was to be married to you. She remembers these things in her final hour. She says, when I was to be married to you, Jibreel comes down and says, Zahra, what do you want in your mahr? Allah has given you the oceans. She said, I remain quiet. Again, Jibreel went up Again Jibreel comes down, says Allah's given the mountains in your mahr. Again I went up, again came down, says Allah's given the land. Again remained quiet, again went up. Says all of Alam Kaun, again quiet, again came down. Says Zahra, Allah is asking, what do you want? Why are you remaining quiet? You know what she says? She says one thing. She says, tell Allah, the only thing that I want is to give shafa'ah for all of those people who cry for my son Hussein. Zahra remembered you even when she was leaving this world. Masab of Ahlul Bayt is more than that. Two more things and that's it. Two more things and that's it. You know, shall I tell you two more things? You know what the tradition says? Two things linked to Karbala. If you can take it. Maybe you won't be able to take these two things. I'll give you two things though. Ghurbat of Amir al-Mu'mineen was how much? They say when the Imam, 33 years old, he says that when he was putting the body of Zahra in the grave, he sat there and he was reciting the Quran. He didn't want to finish, he didn't want to leave his wife. After Zahra, what masaib fell on Ali? You know what he says? You know what the hadith says? Ayatollah Karbala narrated this once from the member of Karbala. You know what he says? He says that Amir al-Mu'mineen tried to get up. As he tried to get up, his legs gave way. When his legs gave way, his head hit the ground. When his head hit the ground, Salman was there. Salman says, Mawla, what's happened? We've never seen you fall in Badr. And we never saw you fall in Uhud. And you were fighting in Khaybar. And you were standing in Khandaq. And you were there in every single battle. Ali, we've never seen you. What made you fall like this? Second time Amir al-Mu'mineen tries to stand up. His legs shake, legs give way again. Looks up. He's embarrassed though because Hassan is standing there. Closes his eyes, moves his head away. Again he tries to get up. Again he collapses. Again Hussein is there. Again he puts his head away. Father is feeling embarrassed. His children are watching. Final time, Amir al-Mu'mineen puts his hand on the wall of the grave. Tries to stand up. Feeling embarrassed. Closes his eyes. Says one thing. You know what he says? He doesn't look at Hassan. He doesn't look at Hussein. Doesn't look at the Ashab. One thing he says. He says, Zainab daughter, come to me because your father's feeling weak today. 5-year-old girl comes forward, puts her arms out, says, Father, don't feel alone today. Don't feel alone. Zainab is here with you. Final tradition, and that's it. Nor will you be able to take it, nor will I be able to recite. Final tradition. Zahra is leaving this world, right? Now imagine this. Zahra is leaving this world. From tonight, all the khususi nights begin. Zahra is leaving this world. You know what happens? Says to Ayman, my 2 children are going to come in. They're going to be hungry. Feed them something. I'm going to be in the room. Stories in front of you, right? One part I want to narrate, that's it. You know what the tradition said? Hassan and Hussein come in. What did they reply? We've never eaten without our mother. Both of them are waiting for the mother to come. Both of them charge in the room. Zahra had gone into sajda. Her lifeless body was there. Soul had come out of the body. Hassan grabs the feet. Hussein grabs the head. Time was Asr time. What happens? Hussein says, Mother, answer me. No voice comes out of the body. Again, Hussein says, Mother, answer me. No voice comes out of the body. Third time, Hussein says, Mother, if you're not going to reply, I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry. From the lifeless body of Zahra, voice comes, Son, you called me. I answered you, son. Son, you called me. I answered you. Asr time will come. Son, when I call you, you answered me. Asr time comes. Hussein is lying there. Shimr begins to walk. وَجَلَسَ عَلَى صَدْرِهِ. Shimr comes onto the chest of Hussein, grabs him by the beard. At that moment, one mother comes. Hussein, I haven't forgotten you. Hussein. Matam Hussein.